American dealer lots in 2026 are packed with brand new crossovers priced between $35,000 and $55,000, loaded with touchscreens, turbo 4-cylinders, and 8-speed transmissions that start failing right after the warranty runs out. Meanwhile, some of the most dependable cars ever built in this country are sitting ignored on used lots, $10,000 or less, because nobody wants a car that looks like it belongs to their grandfather. 5 overlooked used cars refuse to die, starting with a Swedish brick that Detroit engineers still study. The Volvo 240 makes its case on pure mechanical stubbornness. Produced from 1974 until 1993, nearly 2 decades without a full redesign, it became the default car for Swedish families, European taxi companies, and eventually American drivers who just wanted something that wouldn't leave them stranded. Underneath that famously boxy shape sits the red block engine family, the B21, B23, and B234 cylinders that Volvo tested for 500 hours at full load and drove more than 600,000 miles across Europe under real-world conditions before ever selling one to the public. Jalopnik has documented clean examples selling for as little as $3,600 to $5,400, and Volvo enthusiast sites routinely cite 240s crossing 300,000 to 400,000 miles on the original engine, with fleet and taxi examples in Europe reportedly topping 500,000. The engine is a non-interference design, cast iron block, forged crankshaft, oversized main bearings, built so simply that most repairs are a one-wrench job in a driveway, with enough room under the hood to practically sit inside the engine bay while you work. The known weak spot is the flame trap in the crankcase ventilation system, which clogs over time and can blow seals if ignored, but it costs next to nothing to replace, and any competent home mechanic can handle it in an afternoon. Parts are still everywhere thanks to that long production run, and a dedicated global following that never really went away. Nobody wants a car nicknamed the Brick, which is exactly why you can still buy one for the price of a used couch. The first-generation Toyota Avalon, from 1995 to 1999, is the car Toyota built to sit above the Camry, and then watched America completely ignore. Toyota positioned it as an entry-level alternative to a Lexus, roomy enough for 6-foot-plus passengers in the back seat, with a V6 borrowed from the same reliable family Toyota used across its lineup. IC Cars, drawing on an analysis of over 300 million vehicles, gives the Avalon an 8.4 out of 10 reliability score and calculates a 31.4% chance of reaching 200,000 miles, putting it among the most reliable large cars sold in America. On Car Survey, an owner of a 1997 Avalon with 215,000 miles rated the car 8.8 out of 10 for reliability, describing routine maintenance and nothing more over 2 decades of ownership. And that kind of review is far from unusual among first-generation owners on enthusiast forums. The car shares much of its running gear with the Camry of the same era, which means cheap, widely available parts and mechanics who already know the platform inside out. The weak points on high-mileage examples are mostly cosmetic, cracked dashboards and worn seat foam, along with an occasional oil seep near the timing cover that most owners simply clean up during routine oil changes rather than bother fixing outright. It is not exciting. It was never supposed to be. It was supposed to still be running 20 years later, and by every account available, it is. Specifically, anything built between 1988 and 2005, with the 3800 V6 under the hood, is the used car mechanics recommend to people who don't care about cars at all. They just want one that starts every single morning. The 3800, in its Series 2 and Series 3 forms, made Ward's 10 best engines list multiple times, and was produced in numbers exceeding 25 million units across Buick, Oldsmobile, Pontiac, and Chevrolet products, making it one of the most manufactured engines in American automotive history. Owner accounts collected by outlets like the Autopian describe LeSabres passing 200,000 and even 300,000 miles with nothing more than oil, coolant, and transmission fluid changes. and mechanics on record describe 3800s surviving hydrolock, bent connecting rods, and outright neglect, while still driving themselves onto a flatbed under their own power. Fuel economy on these engines is also better than most people expect from a full-size sedan, with highway figures in the low 30s reported by long-term owners. The one well-documented weak spot is the plastic intake manifold gasket and coolant elbows, known for cracking and leaking coolant over time. But the fix is inexpensive, well understood by any independent shop, and aftermarket metal replacement elbows exist specifically to solve the problem permanently. Buick's reputation as an old man's car is exactly why nobody bids against you at the used lot. Built on Ford's body-on-frame Panther platform, spent 33 years doing a job most sedans could never survive, running 24 hours a day as taxis and police cruisers, particularly in New York City, where the Crown Victoria was the backbone of the yellow cab fleet for over a decade. According to reporting on the Panther platform's retirement and its long fleet record, these cars routinely passed 200,000 miles in police and taxi service, with the 4.6-litre modular V8 conservatively tuned specifically to withstand that kind of abuse for years on end. Pricing tracked by dealers and specialist buyers now ranges from around $3,500 for a high-mileage civilian example, up to $15,000 for a clean, low-mileage survivor, with decommissioned police interceptors often available even cheaper. Because Ford built these cars in enormous numbers for fleet buyers over more than 3 decades, salvage yards and aftermarket suppliers are still flush with parts, so nothing about keeping one running is expensive or hard to find. Ford did issue a recall covering steering shaft corrosion on models built between 2005 and 2011 in Salt Belt states, which the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration tracked as affecting roughly 355,000 vehicles. So that is one specific thing worth having inspected before you buy. Everything else about the car was engineered around one idea: cheap to fix and nearly impossible to kill. The Lexus LS 400 is the car that proves reliability and luxury were never supposed to be enemies. Toyota launched the entire Lexus brand around this one sedan in 1989, aiming it directly at the BMW 7 Series and the Mercedes-Benz S-Class, while undercutting both on price. Under the hood sits the 1UZFE, a 4-litre all-aluminum V8 that Toyota spent roughly 6 years and about $1 billion developing under a secret project codenamed simply F1, Flagship Number 1, with no fixed budget and no deadline handed down by the company's chairman at the time. The engine was engineered with a forged steel crankshaft carrying 8 counterweights, along with cast-iron cylinder liners inserted into the aluminium block for long-term bore integrity, and it later became one of the first automotive engines ever certified by the Federal Aviation Administration for use in aircraft. Consumer Reports listed the LS 400 among vehicles capable of exceeding 200,000 miles with regular maintenance back in 2007, and owner forums like Club Lexus are full of examples well past that figure, including cars reported at 220,000 miles that still don't burn a single drop of oil between changes. Automotive journalist Matt Farah, host of The Smoking Tire, has spoken publicly about owning an LS 400 with over 1 million miles on the odometer, still running on its original engine. And yet these cars, once cross-shopped against Germany's finest, now sell for a fraction of what a 3-year-old crossover costs, simply because nobody under 50 wants a Lexus their grandfather would have loved. The known weakness across all 5 of these cars is the same one. They look old, they look plain, and that image problem is the only real flaw any of them have left. Across all 5, one truth keeps repeating itself. Badge prestige fades fast, but honest engineering just keeps running. Every car on this list was designed in an era when automakers built for the worst-case owner, the taxi driver, the police department, the family that never changed the oil on schedule, and engineered around that person instead of around a marketing brochure. In a market obsessed with screens, subscriptions, and horsepower nobody will ever use on public roads, these 5 overlooked workhorses are a reminder that the smartest money in used cars has never been spent chasing a badge. It's been spent on the cars nobody else wanted.